Hello ladies and gentlemen, what is going on? Welcome back to Force Strategy Gaming. Today we will be taking a look at a Protoss strategy. Now the player that we are looking at is MVP's Genius, and the opponent here is actually FXO's QXC. So let's go right into Genius Vision here. So yes, Protoss strategy. What specifically are we looking at today? Well, today we will be focusing on a 5-gate Sentry heavy Zealot push. So it's going to be a Sentry Zealot push, and something else that I really want to take a look at is the ability to use force fields to prevent repairing on bunkers. Can be very, very strong. If you ever have a Terran opponent who goes for any sort of a quick expansion build, a lot of times they will be relying on the bunkers to save them and protect them from early pushes. So if you kind of negate the Stalker and instead you use all of your Vespene on getting lots of sentries, and then use Zealots, of course, as your other hard unit to push with, you can actually negate any repairs on those bunkers and push through that frontal defense. And that's kind of the idea. That is the mentality. The flip side of this, the other thing that we will be looking at, as mentioned prior, is a 5-gate push that can be very strong, very effective, especially on any of these maps with kind of these large entrances. Can be very, very beneficial for you, allowing plenty of room for your Zealots to get up on your opponents, and especially with all of those sentries, allowing you to cut off any troops from actually being able to retreat, which is typically what the Terran army will be trying to do, trying to pull away from your Zealots. In terms of the build order, once more, it is a 5-gate, so we will be taking a look at that. Let me slow it on down so I can go ahead and lay out the build order for you. It is going to be starting out with a 9 Pylon, 12 Gateway, 14 Assimilator. 17 is when the Cybernetics Core came in. 17 supply, second Assimilator gets dropped. 20 supply, Warp Gate Research starts. 27 supply, your second and third Gateway get dropped. And then a 31 supply, you get your fourth and fifth Gateway. And we're actually going to see Genius place that over here. Something else we want to take a look at, we can see Genius over here with his scouting probe and actually placing a proxy pylon just out of vision of that Xel'Naga tower. You can see the Xel'Naga tower vision would kind of skirt right along that edge. What he did actually was grab the tower with that probe and then spot where the vision stops and then drop the pylon. So even if a Marine pushed out to try to take this tower, that proxy pylon would still be hidden. So we can see right here, after the first Gateway finishes, you actually are waiting until that Cybernetics Core finishes, and then starting those first 3 units produced out of there before you even get that Warp Gate Research finished will just be 3 sentries. Big, really important thing that you need to do with these first 3 sentries is deny any scouting. You, of course, do not want your opponent to see that you are going to be pushing out here. So as I mentioned, the build order in terms of the last Gateways were finished at 31 supply, and actually at that point you're also cutting probe production. So building probes in your first 3 sentries up until 31 supply, and then stopping at that point. Now once those warp gates are in, that of course is when you're starting, and once more, as I mentioned, you do want to go sentry heavy and then Zealots with any extra. So pretty much keep warping in sentries, you run out of Vespene, and then go ahead and go along with all of that Zealot production. You will want a healthy mix once the push does come. We can see right now sitting at currently 6 sentries, and then we'll be continuously warping in Zealots here as well. And you're basically going to see whenever he has that excess Vespene, we'll be warping in those sentries. Now, of course, a sentry warps in initially with just enough energy to force field. That is perfect. Your initial sentries will have enough energy to drop down a Guardian Shield as well, and that will certainly help cut back on the damage that those Marines do. But the primary focus, and what we will be specifically looking at here with this push, is again preventing those force fields from getting repaired. So we can see Guardian Shield goes down. That's one of the first things, but then immediately after dropping those force field, it kept a bunch of those Marines out of range of those sentries. It's okay if those Marines are firing on the Zealots. The sentries are kind of the soft target, and that's the one you want to keep away from that high DPS of those Marines. You can see there, with those force fields being placed on the backside of those bunkers, the Terran player cannot actually get any repair down. And I want to pause momentarily and just take a look at the opponent QXC, what he has. You can see he's set very Marine heavy with a lot of bunkers, and what QXC actually ended up doing, I know it says Outbreak, this is QXC playing this particular account, but yes, what he ended up doing was a Marine heavy fast expansion with bunkers as defense, and that can work very well unless you get pushed out against Sentry heavy with a lot of Zealots, because when you go for this type of build as a Terran player, as I mentioned, it can be very strong, but you pretty much rely on the bunkers and SCV repairs to prevent you from dying to a 4 or 5 gate push. And as we're going to see here, going straight back into the vision of the Protoss player, we're going to see clearly that did not work out for him because of this Sentry heavy push. So as mentioned, if you are against a Terran player and he does go for any sort of quick expand build and relying on bunkers, this push will be very, very strong for you. Specifically, you probably will want to try this on any of the larger maps on the ladder, because many players will think to fast expand on those larger maps. Another very, very big and important aspect of those force fields, look at that, stopping all of those Marines from retreating. Even if he was going kind of a standard Marine Marauder into an expand, let's say possibly a 2-racks expand, so he was sitting with a good mix of Marines and Marauders, this push could still be very effective, especially given the fact that with all these sentries, you can stop that ever frustrating kiting from those concussive shells of that Marauder simply by laying force fields behind any of those Marines and Marauders trying to kite your Zealots around. And as we know, obviously, if your Zealots can get within range of the Marines and Marauders of your Terran opponent, then you will be doing quite all right. So let's take one last look here back at the build order. Again, this was a 5-gate push, sitting Sentry heavy for force fields and Guardian Shield, preventing repairs on those bunkers. The build order here was 9 Pylon, 12 Gateway, 14 was the first Assimilator, 17 supply, the Cybernetics Core, 17 supply, also that second Assimilator came in. 20 supplies when the Warp Gate research started, 27 supply the second and third gateways, 31 supply the fourth and fifth gateways, cutting pro production at that point. Obviously, proxy pylons very important, pushing out, starting out with those initial 3 sentries to deny scouting, pushing out with those, and then warping in at your proxy pylons. And remember, Zealot and Sentry, you pretty much stick to those 2, and this push can certainly do very, very well for you. So as always, guys, thank you so much for watching. Hopefully you have enjoyed the commentary, this content and strategy video. If you do like what we're doing here, please go ahead and subscribe to the channel. And as always, guys, keep watching and keep owning.